Obsidian invited me to play The Outer Worlds too early. It's a game that's been on my radar for a while now, and for me, it looks like a bigger, better version, just more of what I wanted from the first game. Now that I've played 4 hours of it, and I'll explain how I've played 4 hours in a minute, it's one of the strangest previews for a video game that I've ever done because of how short it was. The first time through, it confused me because on a blind run, if you slow down to loot everything, read all the messages on the computers, really explore every corner of the level, this still takes you less than an hour to complete. I was confused because when I finished it, the game kicked me back out to the main menu and then I was like, what's going on? Then I loaded my save back up and it put me right before that final bit. Turns out I only got to play the prologue of this game, and there's a decent chunk that I can't reference or even show you because of spoilers. So I would call this more of a demo than a preview. For example, I only got to use 2 ranged weapons, a pistol and a rifle, and 2 separate melee weapons. There was no armor to collect in this level. There were no companions that I could control because of the story, because this is the very beginning of the game. This confused me because I'm like, what am I supposed to say after, 50 minutes of playing this game? It's basically just a demo. It's similar to the first game, and I can't really see the impact of the difference between the first game and the second game in this small section. Then I realized they wanted me to replay this prologue many different times to see how it turns out based on my decisions and choices. And so I did that. So I had something to talk about in this video. I replayed the prologue 6 different times. I chose all 6 of the backgrounds for your character, multiple different combinations of positive and negative traits, all the different skills. I also took different paths through the level, all of this to see how it would affect the game. And you know what? I came away fairly impressed with how different the situations could turn out based on these decisions, just in the beginning prologue of the game. So let's start with the character creation, because that's arguably the most important part of the game and what this whole prologue is designed to show you. Here you get to obviously choose your character's appearance. It's pretty much the same as the first game, but you get to choose from 6 different backgrounds. This is who you were before you joined the Earth Directorate, which is a new faction in the game. You've got Renegade, Ex-Convict, Gambler, Lawbringer, Roustabout, and Professor. And these are interesting because this actually changes how people treat you, especially this intro animation where you're getting a brief for the mission. The guy references exactly what your background is and how you're going to approach the mission.
As always, I look forward to your academically grounded yet thoroughly imaginative musings in your summary report.
May the law and your renowned luck be with you and your team, Commander.
And these give you special dialogue options as well, things you're allowed to say in conversation because that is your background. And then you've got 9 positive traits that offer various different bonuses. Similar to the first game, these sometimes have to do with combat, sometimes have to do with dialogue. It really depends, but it's just sort of some more background to fill out your character. You can choose 1 to 2 of these, but if you choose 2, you have to also choose a negative trait to balance it out. For my Professor run, I chose Innovative and Brilliant. I really like Brilliant because it lets you choose an extra skill in the next section. But then of course I had to choose a negative trait and I chose Sickly, which lowers my health and also how much I can heal in combat. To me, that felt like a perfect combination for the kind of Professor character I wanted to play that wasn't super concerned about combat. And then you have your skills to choose from. There's 12 of them, similar to the first game, but this one, you're not allocating points, you're just kind of tagging them and saying, this is a skill that I specialize in. So you have your typical RPG options, plus a couple of new interesting ones. And what I really like about these is, again, they have not only impacts in gameplay, but they affect dialogue too. These feel like a real part of your character because you can reference your skills in conversation whenever it's relevant.
I'm not so certain. They're relentless and well-armored. They may surprise you.
That's it for creating your character. Let's take a moment to talk about this story. You play as an agent of the Earth Directorate, which supposedly is here to fight back against corporate tyranny and evil governments. This is an interesting choice considering the first game had you as more of an impartial bystander. You somehow, landed in this situation and you can choose a side. This time the game is like, No, you're against, all of the dystopian corporate evilness that's going on in this universe. But of course, I have no doubt that you can flip on that. You can defect and serve those corporations and governments if you want to. So this prologue mission is all about infiltrating a facility to meet a forward agent and gather information. And I'm going to keep it very vague because it kind of doesn't matter, or at least I can't tell if it matters that much because, again, this is just the first 50 minutes of the game. You start with a crew on your very own ship, and you get to meet them and interact with them before you leave. One big change I noticed immediately is that certain choices in dialogue will be remembered by your companions, similar to other RPGs you might have played. And the game tells you this when it happens. Niles Ibarra, at the very beginning, asks you for advice because he's a rookie and you're an experienced agent.
I was just hoping to get a moment to ask you for a pointer or two, on how to be a great agent like yourself.
And the choice you make here impacts his decision-making later in the mission. It comes back and he says, "I remember what you told me, Captain." So it's pretty cool. Once you actually get to the facility, the first part of this mission is all about getting through security. And of course, this is a choice-based RPG, so there's lots of different ways of doing it. The first way is that you can talk to this guy through the intercom and tell him to shut down security, but you have to convince him. And this is not a very obvious way to do it.
Wait a moment. You're calling from landing pad 0-53? That's listed as decommissioned.
One of the ways is you can grab the employee ID card off of a dead guy nearby and pretend to be that guy. And you'd think that's the best option to take, but in my experience, it's not. There's a very roundabout way that you have to take with dialogue that plays into the humor of this world and this universe in order to get him to do what you want him to do. Alternatively, you don't have to talk to him at all. You can just shoot your way through security. That's definitely an option. But there's another option, and that's sneaking through. And I didn't even realize this was a choice until my 4th or 5th time. If you choose some of the more sneaky options in the character creator, Niles Ibarra, your companion, will actually give you a mag pick and other things that you need in order to hack and sneak your way through. It's actually pretty interesting. Once you get through that part of the mission, then the next part is this branching path. So essentially, you'll get to a cutscene and your companions will ask you, do you want to go to the left, which is more sneaky, or you want to go to the right, which is more combat heavy?
Which you taking, Commander? We'll hit the other.
And the thing is, these are completely different paths in the level that are locked off from one another. So when you choose one of these, you will not see the other one at all. You can't go in that area. So both of these paths are designed to teach you a playstyle, sneaky or combat. And so sneaky one obviously has a lot of tutorials about how stealth works in the game. It gives you a knife, it teaches you to crouch down, it teaches you how to do a stealth attack. Conversely, the combat side has a lot of red barrels in arenas where you're just gonna shoot guys in the head. The combat side also gives you a shock baton instead of a knife. So it is basically saying, hey, this is a playstyle you are choosing. Of course, I'm sure you could change your mind later. And the way combat and stealth work in this game, it's so similar. Like I said at the top, there were only 2 ranged weapons and 2 melee weapons. So you start with a pistol and you have the tactical time dilation, which slows down time. It also slows you down, so sometimes it's kind of why am I doing this? It's basically just to help you aim better, so you can line up headshots and just take out enemies easier. Stealth feels very similar. I think one difference is the game gives you these little things you can throw to distract enemies. This is something you've seen in video games forever, so it's not new to video games, but I think it is new to the Outer Worlds. But again, there were a lot of different things that I did not notice, different paths within these paths, places I could sneak into that I did not realize I could do until 3 or 4 or 5 times into these runs. So this is absolutely a game that rewards your curiosity. If you want to know how there are different ways to navigate the level and different rooms you can get into, if only you could, hack a door or lockpick a door. It's absolutely a game that rewards that. In this second section, when you choose between combat and stealth, I'm not sure if it was on both sides or not, but you can actually hack the mechs, the security in this level, and recalibrate them to protect you. So this plays a factor later on when security attacks you. you actually have the mechs to defend you. That was probably the biggest, most interesting thing I thought you could do across this entire prologue level. Eventually, the combat part of the level and the stealth part of the level, they converge again, and that's when you have to deal with the first intercom guy that you may or may not have talked to. And again, this is a very difficult conversation that I had 6 different times trying to figure out, okay, how do I get this guy to give me what I need?
I won't allow you to get away with this!
And a lot of that depends on if you found something in the level, like this guy's notepad that might give you more information, more context on what you can do to manipulate him to do what you want him to do. And it has to do with your skills. If you're persuasive, if you have speech, then you can convince this guy to help you. But then there's another optional path off to the side that unlocks another part of the level that you can navigate. This allows you to skip a pretty big fight, and yeah, it's just interesting. There are so many different doors and just opportunities solely dependent on what kind of character you've built. And so it's really about, I think, playing into whatever playstyle you want to play and sort of seeing how the chips fall based on what you're bringing to the level. There's a couple more cool interactions. For example, you can't read this chalkboard unless you're a professor. So it's basically like, hey, you're not smart enough to know what's going on here. I also like this, like toxic barrel thing. You could actually manipulate these to kill a bunch of guards that always come by, but you can only do it if you're like lucky or you have engineering or science. One of my favorite skills that I didn't expect to be so cool was observation. This will come up in dialogue, but also when you're looting around the world, sometimes you'll get this indicator that says, hold on, there's something nearby. And then you can open up a container or a pathway that wasn't there before, and it's not accessible for people who don't have observation. Towards the very end, I mean like really close to the end, you get a rifle, and this is where the combat actually feels better to me. You're actually dealing decent damage, but again, it's like 2 weapons? I have no idea why they didn't offer more in this prologue. The first game had so many interesting weapons. Like, I don't expect a science weapon in this prologue, but so many different ways of dealing damage, like damage types. And you can see that stuff is in this game. It's just not in the prologue, and I don't understand that decision. One final thing I wanted to shout out is these different animations depending on how you want to get into doors. There's a door that you can either hack your way into, lockpick your way into, or blow up. There's also an engineering part towards the beginning of the level that you can use a manual to do, or you can use your own skill with engineering to figure out. And yeah, I just appreciate the different animations that they chose for them. They're kind of cartoony and fun, and they fit the flavor and the vibe of this universe. There's plenty of combat or stealth to do before the demo ends, but yeah, I can't show you the ending because of spoilers. Generally speaking, I think it's cool to see how many different ways one section of a game can play out. However, I don't think this was the best representation of the Outer Worlds 2. I'm actually kind of confused why they went with this route for this preview. Because again, it was very lackluster in showing the combat, in showing the companions. Like, there were no companions to interact with. I would have much rather have seen like a larger zone with multiple quests, like the first area of the first game, which wasn't even very long. It was like 2 hours of gameplay, with different outcomes, different companions, some actual loot. Because to me, this prologue, like, the game is not going to be linear like this. This is not really representative of what the full experience will be. Sure, there might be levels, maybe like at the end of Act 1, 2, and 3, where it's pretty linear. But this right here, I don't expect the Outer Worlds to be very similar to what I got here. And hey, I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I found it confusing to not give us more of the game to look at. That's not to say I didn't enjoy my time with what I did see, but I mean, it was cool to see all the different, outcomes and interactions, but after the third time, I was really just kind of zooming through. I'd already seen most of the dialogue. I'm excited for the Outer Worlds 2. It just, it felt like a weird choice. Less about the quality of the game itself and more like, I don't understand why you did this. In any case, I did get to play the Outer Worlds 2 early, and I am grateful for that, thanks to Obsidian and Microsoft for that code and the opportunity. I'm still excited to play the Outer Worlds 2 when it comes out in a couple of months, and that was everything that I thought about the game after playing the prologue. So I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to hit that like button. I'd appreciate it. Also, sub to the channel for more videos like this, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.